Hello, welcome to AHVAL TV. We are going to discuss today Turkish economy, Turkish lira, and how the Turkish economy is doing. And we have two distinguished guests here. We are really proud to have them. The first one is Mr. Atilla Yeşilada. Welcome to AHVAL TV, sir.
It's my pleasure to be here. Good evening, gentlemen.
And Mark Bentley.
Hi, good evening.
Mark Bentley has been following Turkish economy since the 90s. I think he's one of the best analysts out there. Also, he's a proud contributor to AHVAL News. You can follow his writings on AHVAL. And also Mr. Atilla Yeşilada, who is the editor-in-chief for Para-Analiz. He has a big followings on Twitter, and he's one of the must-watch and follow Twitter out there for Turkish economy, but also he is a leading political analyst. And let me go right into my questions before taking too much time here. Atilla Bey, would you like to start? Why Turkish lira depreciated so significantly these recent weeks, days, while the global markets are doing pretty well?
There is a cognitive dissonance between the AKP government and how the world investment community views Turkey. According to the world investment community, Turkey is overheating. That's growing faster than it possibly can, manifested in double-digit inflation and current account deficits, as we have seen the print today, exceeding 6% of GDP. The latter, by the way, is the highest among G20 countries and financed almost purely by credit and speculative flows. So it's very volatile. On the other hand, the AKP government thinks Turkey can easily grow 8% a year, adding more stimulus to the economy and completely ignoring calls to own up to the problem. More importantly, even though legislatively speaking, Central Bank of Turkey is independent, there is really no credibility in that rhetoric. Everyone knows that Governor Çetinkaya has to obtain permission from Mr. Erdogan before he can play with the interest rates. According to the world financial community, Turkey's current economic conditions would demand immediate interest rate increase, and not 50, 100 basis points, but a shock rate hike like 400 basis points. But clearly, central bank hasn't said anything about the current slide in the Turkish lira. Mr. Erdogan thinks what's happening is another ploy or conspiracy against the Turkish economy. Therefore, it's not clear whether he would approve a rate hike. As a result, investors are worried that the Turkish lira is completely undefended. Regardless of the level it might drop to, central bank has no intention to intervene. And if the lira drops further, we're going to get 15% inflation, for example, and bond yields reaching 16, 17%. That kind of thing really scares foreigners.
Wow, this is not a good, pretty picture. Even if I am not economist, I think I can understand. Let me move to Mark Bentley. We have been hearing a lot, again, this economic overheating. What is it exactly, and why it is bad?
Well, as Atilla said, I mean, the government's trying to boost growth as fast as it possibly can. And it's introducing tax incentives and loan guarantees. And now we've got some project financing worth something like $34 billion for specific companies that are close to the president. And this is all pushing inflation higher and the current account deficit wider. And like Atilla said, now this is creating a huge concern among the investment community because they see that the economy is overheating, as defined before, and the government's not doing anything about it. Interest rates are 11.75% right now, the late liquidity window, and like the bond yields for maybe 10-year, I think are about 14.5%, 15%. That's the gap there. It's not part of the market rate, and the central bank is behind the curve, and bank loan rates are going up towards 20%. So,
Atilla Bey, do you see this trend? Mark explained it is sustainable.
No, clearly not. I mean, as I've said, the lira is the barometer for economic performance as far as the Turkish public goes, for right or wrong reasons. If the slide of the lira can't be stopped, I bet you we will see consumer confidence collapsing completely. But believe me, this is the lesser of AKP's problems. The bigger problem is, as your fine publication has covered, the loan restructurings. Not all of them are related to financial expenses coming from foreign debt, but a lot of them are. I mean, Turkish companies have unhedged foreign debt of $221 billion, or 1/4 of GDP. So, every 10% drop in TL is hurting these people. It's destroying profitability. In my writings today, I called what's happening Turkey's Minsky moment. In other words, the debt, the leverage we have accumulated since the great financial crisis could suddenly snowball and topple down on us if the slide of the lira can't be stopped. So no, this is not sustainable. Either Erdogan will have to change its rhetoric and accept a belt-tightening program, or in my view, he'll call early elections and then do whatever needs to be done.
Mark, since the Turkish lira is sliding down apparently and is continuing, how the Turkish companies can cope with this lira weakness?
Well, obviously, what they want to do is to reconstruct their debts at longer terms and preferable rates of interest, and use their influence with the government and with the banks in order to restructure the best they possibly can. The personal relationships will be very important in this regard, and some companies will do it and some companies won't. But it's open to question how some of the small and medium-sized companies are faring at the moment, because we don't have any data on that. We see companies like Yıldız Holding and Dorsch announcing to the public that they're restructuring, but the smaller companies, we don't know what the extent of the problem is. So it's a real struggle for them. As Atilla mentioned, what they can do is obviously raise prices, which would contribute to inflation, and you peddle their influence with the government, cut costs, perhaps lay some people off. What companies normally do when they have to belt tighten.
I see.
So it's bad news for the economy in general.
Atilla Bey, I wanna this final round. I wanna get your take on about these regional problems, geopolitical problems. You also talk about this actually in your, I believe, latest opinion on para analysis. Para analysis, by the way, must follow. They cover both in Turkish and English, and I understand Turkish is more active. What is this Russian-Iran angle? It looks like US-led coalition is going to hit Syria. How this situation is going to affect Turkish economy or Turkish lira?
Well, there are two routes through which the markets and the economy can be impacted. The first is the simple. So far, what we call geopolitical risks transpired in the Asia-Pacific arena, trade wars between China and the United States. Now that seems to be sorted out, or on its way to be sorted out. The investors' risk perception suddenly focused on the triangle of United States, Russia, and Iran. And that comes to Syria. In Syria, we have a very untenable situation. We try to be friendly both with the United States and Russia. So in the sense that investors who have so far been rather indifferent to Syria are now paying a close attention, they'll see that picture. They'll see that we need to stay in Syria for years to come and further discount Turkish assets. The bigger problem is if Russia and the United States are engaging in a long-term war of attrition, sort of a Cold War, and the focus of that Cold War is the Middle East, they would want Turkey to take sides, to choose sides, which is impossible because we are completely linked to Russia with gas and nuclear energy, and we're linked to the United States via NATO. So whomever we betray is going to punish us very severely. Finally, I think as a subplot along that, I don't know what Russia can do to Turkey except not sending its tourists, but what the American sanctions did to Russian economy is a good example, and I hope to God it won't be repeated. What it might do to Turkey if we cross them vis-a-vis Hakan Atilla case, the purchase of S-400s, the Magnitsky Act vis-a-vis Pastor Brunson. I mean, there are so many issues where United States could use as cover to impose sanctions on Turkey. And Turkish economy doesn't have the $500 billion FX reserves that the Russian economy does. So I think all of these risks that have existed underneath the ground, but investors didn't pay attention to, would come to the fore if Trump and Putin escalate these tensions and investors remain focused on Syria and Turkey's role in this crying game.
This was an excellent overview. It looks like Turkey might have to take a side if some real clash will happen in Syria between Russia and Turkey. But perhaps, hopefully, we can discuss this in next program. Mark, would you like to add anything on this here? Well,
you sense at the moment that Erdogan feels that he's in a predicament. The situation in East Ghouta, he's criticized pretty directly without mentioning Putin himself, that he's not happy with that situation. You can perhaps see some movement towards the Western side again from the Russian side for Turkey. But like Atilla said, it's really difficult for them because of the energy commitments, the nuclear power deal, the S-400 still on the agenda. So they really caught in the middle.
Okay, well, we'll see what President Erdogan is going to do upcoming days and weeks.
Everything's up to him, so yeah.
It's so all in the hands of the Lord now.
Thank you so much for coming on. See you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.